Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by TheLines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by Nate Weitzer. He's on the East Coast. And we're looking at player props here on Friday to close out the work week with you guys. Definitely want to make sure to subscribe to that page. Check out best bets that we have up in a separate episode, bringing both of these to you each and every weekday this NBA season. Looking to improve on the 2-2 in the player props. Nice little 3-1 in the best bets. So money made here on Thursday, but let's look to pick it up a little bit more and close out with maybe a nice little 3-1 in the player props as well, Nate.
Yeah, I'll go with DeJounte Murray in a game where I've taken the over, 220.5 with Nola at Philly here. If he got his first opportunity to play with Zion and the floor seemed to open up immediately for DeJounte, right? 29-6 on 30% usage. So I will take those two stats, 24.5 points and assists on the over here. In that game, he scored 7 points on 14 drives. That's against Rudy Gobert and the Minnesota Timberwolves. And this is just a much easier matchup now against the Sixers without Embiid or Drummond. So Yabusele at center, kind of been a parade to the rim. Expect both teams to have success going to the rim here. DeJounte has been diming up for sure. I mean, and there's room for growth here in terms of the potentials. Last 15.5 potential assists. Only 8.8 assists per game. I mean, that's still a good number. I say only. He had only 6 assists on the 17 potentials in his first game with Zion. So that is a lot of room for growth. And I mean, yeah, we're talking about 16.5 points as the core point prop. If you like points in this game, if you don't think that they're going to be stopping many dudes going to the rim, DeJounte should have some success there. And the mid-range against Philly, he averages 7 more a game without Trey Murphy, who's ruled out tonight. 5 more a game without Herb Jones, who's also ruled out. And so, yeah, he's averaging 22 without either of those guys. And then we're only talking about a few assists for a man who's, yeah, again, like 6 to 8 assists seems like a very fair projection in this spot.
Yeah, just got to see how, obviously, how Zion opens things up. But I mean, just more lobs at the rim, I would imagine. So, I'm with it. We'll see what happens with this NOP team. I'm probably staying away from them for a little bit. But DeJounte Murray is as good of a play as any of them for this particular matchup as well. So let me go over to Zinger. I talked about him a little bit in best bets, but I think his core prop is still so beatable at 17.5 points. I think his prop should probably be at least 18.5, if not 19.5, moving forward this season. He's at about 18 points, 18.6 per game. But just so many instances of him not needing to play that much either, right? In the games that he has had to play, because this is actually a close game, he's over this with the starting lineup out there in 5 of 7 games this season. The 2 that he did not go over, one was against Washington. He played 11 minutes because why would you play him against Washington? He was like questionable to play that game. Then he played and it was just like, whatever, why are we putting him out there? They won by 14 and called it. And then the other one, he had 17 points. So he's right up against that number. But the amount of shots that he's taking, the level of activity and involvement in the offense is just too high at this point. Like they're clearly looking for him to finish things. It's actually a little bit correlated with like a Jaylen Brown 4+ assists. With Zinger out there when he's on the floor with them, he's actually the leading assist guy in the starting lineup when they're all playing together on the floor at the same time. He's averaging about 6.8 per 36 minutes, slightly more than Jason Tatum, who's at like 6.5 per 36. But when they're out there together, it's just clear like that there's 3 dudes who are allowed to do what they want with the ball. Then there's Derek White as the outlet for 3 whenever you need him. And then there's Drew Holiday doing everything else. And so for Zinger, the sort of focus on the shooting for him, the 16.5 field goal attempts as well, that all leads me to really like this stuff. Interestingly, Sack, not bad against centers. Pretty good limiting center points. Pretty good down low, like a good rim defense, which is the weirdest thing because we just used to talk about any team that Domas was on as a welcome mat to the rim. And now it's not the case for them. I don't have the strongest reasoning. I guess Domas definitely looks a little bit better. You're getting a few more Trey Lyles minutes, but I don't look at him as a world beater down low either. It's mostly probably this wing defense as well that's limiting people getting into the paint and limiting the frequency with which teams can even shoot the ball down low. That's a huge part of all this for them. I'm not worried about that for Zinger. One, dude 7'4", whatever he wants to do in the post, he's going to get a baby hook. It's fine. Other thing is he's taking so many mid-range. This is another weak point for the Kings. They're pretty good inside. They're good inside the paint. You step one step outside of the paint, you're good to go against them a lot more, where they're trying to sort of collapse and keep things close to the basket. So I like Zinger to get the 18 tonight. I'm projecting him for another 32 minutes in a decently close game, probably not a 20-point blowout like some people might expect for the Celtics at home. So with that in mind, I think the minutes are good enough to propel him there to the 18.
Yeah, as long as it's a competitive game, I think Porzingis is good for this for sure. We outlined kind of why we think the Kings can hang around here in Boston. So that's fair. I don't think the Nets will be competitive in Denver, but yeah, I am going to take Noah Clowney to continue his upward trajectory here in terms of just volume. Like, it's going to be extremely inefficient, but apparently he can have all the shots he wants. So over 13 and a half points at minus 115 seems like fine value. When he's implied minus 130 to hit three threes in this spot. He's a 6'10 power forward who can probably get a little something going in the paint here. We'll see. I don't know if Jokic is going to play through the illness, but should be a little easier to score down low if Jokic does play. But either way, Aaron Gordon's still out for Denver. They probably aren't going to be fired up defensively, slapping the floor, so to speak, against this Brooklyn Nets squad, which is it's kind of ridiculous with Cams, both Cams out, D'Lo out, several other guys out. Books are just laying like a 13 and a half for every single player on the Nets. It's just like, I don't know, go get it. Like, we'll see who can actually get to 14, 15 points here. But Clowney in the last two has I think posted a team high usage rate, 26%. He's taken 10 and a half threes per game and hit actually four of them, hit 71% on corner threes. So that's the key here. The Nuggets are allowing the second most corner threes in their last 10. They're playing at a 100 pace in their last 7 at home with a 115 defensive rating. Should be up and down. Clowney should get his 30-plus minutes, even if it's a blowout, because there's just not really anybody else to put in there. And then, the Nets are clearly tipping their hand. Like, who can we throw out there who's going to be inefficient, not necessarily give us a chance to win, but show us what we have in the future? Like, is this guy a 3-and-D power forward that we can kind of build around going forward? And kind of mask that in some way as being a competitive team, but which they just have no guys right now.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, Clowney, sure. Anybody that you're not expecting. I mean, it's tough with this team. I don't expect this game to be close, but that doesn't seem to matter anymore to the Nets. They're a blemish on the league at this point. But yeah, this is the one guy. There's maybe even Day'Ron Sharp, but I'm not sure if you mentioned him being out. So yeah, it's tough to freaking navigate this thing, because if you do too well, you're going to get taken out from that Nets squad. So don't be too good, or you won't be playing anymore. So maybe we don't have that much time to take Noah Clowney props till he gets too good, or he gets traded, honestly. But all right, Mikal Bridges, going right back to it, and I love this number. It's 17.5. I mean, look, Cat is still ruled questionable. I took Mikal last game against the Thunder. Still like it this game. Same point number. This is the guy to target for me. This is spot up shooting against the Thunder. That's a big part of it. I mean, this could go down. I mean, I don't know if it's going to get down to 16.5 at this point, because it opened at like 17.5 minus 110. And then it was like, well, Cat's questionable. And when Cat is ruled in, there's probably going to be a nice little bump down for those of you looking to take an over for Mikal Bridges. So I haven't bet this yet, but I'm waiting for that Cat news to come in, because there's going to be an overreaction by the books as soon as Cat is ruled in, that they're going to bump this thing down either in the odds, or they're going to get it all the way down to 16.5. And that's absurd, because Mikal Bridges, yes, he's averaging like 8-19 on the season at this point. But the thing is, in the first 10 games, 8 games of the season, he wasn't scoring like that. There was no real flow to this offense. There wasn't really an understanding of how this offense was going to work. And that hasn't just completely turned around in the last 15, 20 games. Even if you just look at the last 15 for him, he's up to about 22 points per game in that time frame. He's second on the team in field goals behind Jalen Brunson, slightly more than Cat as well, who's missed a few games in the last 15, but not many. And Mikal doesn't miss games, wasn't missing from the floor either for a while. He's come back down to earth for sure. But even in the last game where he just went under, right, in their first freaking win in a while, he was like 4 for 17 from the field, or 18. And that's what I like here, is that if he's taking anywhere from 15 to 18 shots, he is just a complete monster when it comes to getting his overs, especially at 17.5 points. But even 18.5 points would be, somewhat doable for this guy who, like I said, when he's taking this many shots, is money. He's over in 16 of 22 games where he's taken at least 15 shots this season. In those 22 games, averaging 20.5 points, right? And like I said, even just if you bump that up to 16, 17, which is where he's been for the last 15 games, he's been at almost 17 shot attempts per game. Then we're looking at a really nice number here for him. So I think that I'm just going to wait for Cat to give me that price, and I'm going to target the best catch and shoot guy who's taking catch and shoot shots, by the way, twice as many as anybody else on the Knicks, including like OG. He's at like 6.6 catch and shoot attempts per game. Now he's up to 7.2 rather. I made that note. So over 7 catch and shoot shots against a team that's over pressuring the ball, as we know, causing shooters to remain open. I'll take Mikal on this one.
Yeah, I think I'll play the 2.5 threes at plus 100 for what you outlined there with the catch and shoot stuff. I mean, he went 4 for 11 against OKC. That was the bulk of his points from deep. Since then, what, 3 for 23 in his last 3 games from three? So, I mean, some positive regression coming there. You look at the game log all season, any team that like really packs the paint, like a Bucks, a Wolves, or Rockets or something, Mikel's getting a lot of attempts and knocking down a lot of attempts from three. So, I mean, it might even be a small ladder play to 4 threes, 5 threes, which he can get hot in these games. But yeah, 2.5 is a good price, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and I think there's some correlation to him getting the 3 threes and hitting the points total. So that's all the time we have for you in player props, though. Definitely make sure to subscribe to that page. Continue to follow along. Check out the best bets we have up in a separate episode. And until we see you next week, happy betting.